system grow. I've said these words before. I've been down this road, and I don't know why I'm torn.
Hell yeah, I Am Fox. Loving the laid back tune. So any feedback for I Am Fox, go ahead and put that in the chat. What you liked about the song and what you think could be improved. And again, guys, I'm sorry, no free giveaway this week. I do have the free plugins. I just did not have time to promote it, didn't pick a free plugin. So we're going to do it without for this week. But next week, we'll definitely have the free giveaway to give away. And again, that will be a plugin. I've got like a bunch of synthesizer plugins, some effect plugins. So definitely a lot of good plugins to give away. So definitely want to stay tuned for those. So again, any feedback, go ahead and put that in the chat. So definitely love the vibe you had going on. Definitely one of your more mellow songs that you have, that you've sent in, I Am Fox. Oh man, that's going to take me forever to transition from I Am Fox to Sounds from the Void. That's, yeah. You have 2 panels on side walls and carpets not all the way treated. Personally, like for me, like the acoustics of a room, I definitely haven't done much stereo treatment, at least for me. That's really, it's tough. It's really tough to do. There's so much maneuvering around with sound panels, with foam on the walls, with the different objects that are in your room. There's just so many factors that can influence a room that hire a professional. That's really my advice. To get the best possible sound, hire a professional. I was trying to think of some tip that I could give you guys. I guess as far as your monitors, that's really important. Setting up your monitors, positioning in the room, where they are together, how far out, the distance between them, the distance between you and your monitors, that's all really important. That's really the only tips I have. Make sure you have the tweeters directed straight toward your ears. Make sure they're a little bit away from the wall, not next to windows. You definitely don't want your monitors next to windows. There'll be a lot of extra vibrations that come back that mess with your perception of the sound. It's a really basic tips is all I have for that. But it definitely is important. Yes, positioning is the most important. And so, what I think you improved about the song, you mentioned it was muddy, and I definitely agree that it was a bit muddy. I guess you're in the mix down stage right now, I guess. At the end here, when the vocal wasn't playing, I heard all the different instruments that were playing, and they sounded great. They just needed to be more impactful in the mix. That's really what it came down to. You have all the necessary elements to create a full mix for the specific style that you were going for. They just weren't mixed in impactful enough, and they were a little bit muddy. So I would really go back and do some gain staging a little bit, create depth that way first. That will definitely help shape how you mix the rest of the song, because some elements seemed a little bit too tucked back, some could be more up front, and then start going into the EQing of the specific elements. I've definitely shared this video so many times before, and I know you've seen it, I Am Fox, but for everyone who has not seen this tutorial before, definitely check it out. Put it in the chat right there, that YouTube video, how to EQ a muddy mix. This will not only help clear out the mud, but help create separation between the specific elements in your mix. Incredibly important. At first, gain staging, that will help set the different volume levels, so you know around where you want the sounds to be in the mix. Yeah, definitely rewatch it. Honestly, I should rewatch it. I honestly need to rewatch my own tutorials. Like, I remember going back to some of my tutorials recently, and like the limiter tutorial, I remember watching it, I was like, whoa, what? Wow, that's pretty well explained. Like, I forgot that. It's pretty good information. So even I go back and watch some of my tutorials. I definitely did a lot of research for these specific tutorials, and made sure I really thought them out so they could be understandable. Just anyone can understand it, really. Nice. Return from a 3 to 4 week break. It's always good to have a break. Hopefully the break went well there. Sounds from the Void, aka I Am Fox. Not really, I just forget it. I just forget the information. Sometimes there's so much. Like in all the tutorials, I just try and pack in a shit ton of information, and it can easily be forgotten. I think that was your biggest issue, really. The vocal was dominating, which was, I wouldn't say bad. The other elements needed to be clear in the mix. Let me listen back.
Refuse to walk alone without you. The city's waiting.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say the vocals were mixed in poorly or anything. Just the other elements in the mix. And one other thing, the snare. I think you could have used a different snare. I think it was just too aggressive, that you could really feel the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And that really wasn't what the song was about. The song wasn't about just trying to give you whiplash with the snare. It wasn't a dubstep song. You want your snare in your dubstep track to give you whiplash. But in this case, I didn't want whiplash. I wanted something more gentle or deeper in the mix. Reverberated type snare. I think that would work really well. I think that's what I was trying to say there. You could use some more percussion in the track, some more like Foley samples that are deeper in the mix. I think creating more depth with your percussion definitely would help with this style or genre. Right? Too much whiplash. It's just too much whiplash right now. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like whiplash. Only in certain songs, though. Alright. Yeah, no problem. Sounds from the Void. That's really it. I mean, you are well on your way with this track. So thank you again, Sounds from the Void. I Am Fox. It doesn't sound right saying Sounds from the Void. It does not sound right to me, I Am Fox. Can I just call you I Am Fox? Just make my life easier. Fan Freak, you are up next. And I think, Fan Freak, you mentioned that you sent in this song before, right? I think, yeah, Catch That Hoe. I definitely remember that. So you're just looking for mixdown feedback, is that right? So everyone pay attention. Get your ears attentive and ready to hear the mixdown, and comment on the mixdown as we hear it.
Get that hoe.
Catch that hoe.
Catch that hoe.
Let me get featured on your next song, Phantom Freak.
Catch that hoe. Catch that hoe.
It would work. All right, so any feedback for Phantom Freak, go ahead and put that in the chat. He is specifically looking for mixing feedback in this song, guys. So anything you heard that you think could be changed around to help improve this song, throw it in the chat. Or not throw it in the chat. Type it in the chat, and I'm sure Phantom Freak would be greatly appreciated of it. So, yeah, again, always great song as always. I know I always say that, but definitely always quality tunes. Phantom Freak. Really only a few small things. Overall, the mix was pretty well balanced. There was nothing poking out or anything that needed any major shifting around in the mix. I would say there's one sound that was too muddy in the mix. That was just too... It needed to be EQ'd, volume reduced. That sound there, that could be put back in the mix a little bit. It seems to like pop out too forward in the mix. So I'm trying to think how I should describe this. Your bass line, right? That is really like, it's the driving force of your track. It has the low end, it has the mid-range, has a tiny bit high mid-range. Everything else should kind of sit behind that. Something popping in front of that bass line, something popping in front of that bass line, it sounded a little out of place. I think it needs to sit behind that bass line, and it's in front. EQing would help this. I think the panning that you have on it is fine. That could work. Maybe try it without panning. Maybe try it with just stereo spreading. See if that fits in better. You know, when you're fitting in elements with panning, with stereo spreading, it really is like a puzzle piece. It's really kind of what sounds the best. You just have to try different methods and see what works. So let's try stereo spreading that and see if that works better. But you need to have it sit behind it a little bit. You know, again, it's such a driving force of your track, that bass line, that in this style, it's not, you don't have a super saw element playing that's taking up so many frequencies. in your track, taking up the entire frequency spectrum. It's a little more minimalistic, this style. So having specific elements shine in specific parts of the stereo field, the frequency spectrum, it's the sounds don't need to be as full frequency. You have a sound that's in the middle, that's playing the mid-range, playing the low mid-range, and a little bit in the high mid-range. So having another instrument that's playing, I guess, it kind of also is a mid-range element, that brrr sound. It just needs to sit behind it. That's my feeling. And it feels a little out of place just because of how it's mixed in, and not necessarily the timbre of it. You know, I saw in some of your songs, I comment on the timbre. That's not the timbre. It's definitely just the mix of it. It doesn't fit. I guess that's the best way I could describe it. Again, this is just my personal taste on just all the music that I've listened to, the music that I've made. That's just kind of my experience with how I think that sound should be mixed in. Wilson White says the snare at the start is a little high, and vocals on the build need cutting till the drop. That's just my preferred. I definitely want to talk about the build as well here, Wilson White. So thank you for bringing that up. The builds, I think, could be definitely worked with a little bit. They're a little bit too loud in volume. The transition from energy from build up to drop was not that big of a difference. The drop felt definitely a little bit more energetic than the build up, but the build up should definitely provide the most amount of impact by far. It should feel like there's definitely a raised energy level. Even if you have minimal elements in your track, it can still sound like it's much bigger and the energy level has risen. And I just think that comes to changing around the mixing in the build. I think some of the elements get out of hand a little bit volume-wise in the build. So I think, just do some more cutting, do some more cutting automation, low cut automation, do some more volume automation on specific elements. Just listen to the build up again and listen to the different elements that come in and out and tame their volumes down a bit through volume and EQ automation. So just a simple fix. You could also add in, again, more reverb, delay type stuff to wash it out a little bit. That's really a personal preference and how it sounds in the track at that point. But overall, just the volume needs to be reduced in some elements to make it more, the drop more impactful. Other things, okay, so Wilson, you said the snare was a bit too loud in the beginning. I guess it could have been reduced in volume a little bit. You can mess with that. It's like the only element that's playing in that kind of higher frequency range, and so it's like it's definitely nothing else is really competing with that sound. So maybe you can get away with something a little bit lower in volume and still having the same impact, while also providing more clarity to some of the other instruments. Is the bass line quieter in the intro than it is the drop here? Or do you add another layer, Phantom Freak? It sounds about the same volume. I would recommend reducing the volume of this bass line a tiny bit. Reason being, it's going to allow the drop to be even more impactful when it comes in. So you hear the bass line, you hear a little bit of it, but then when the drop comes in, it's not so like 2 decibels, I would say. Maybe make it 1.5 decibels, 1.7 decibels quieter in the intro section here. Again, that way it's more impactful in the drop. Just some really small changes in volume can, definitely work wonders in a track for the perception of a larger than life mix. What else? Another thing about the clap, I think could be reduced in volume a tiny bit. Just a little bit. I think it's maybe cutting through a little bit too sharply. Not that it's a bad thing. Like, well, too sharply, yeah, it's a bad thing. But you want it to be sharp. Like, that's kind of what you want. Yeah, you just want it just lower. You want the sharpness, but just a little bit lower in volume. Not that much. Just mess with that and see if that works. I mean, it's a good mix. It's a good mix. I guess the other thing I would say, the last thing I want to say here that I wrote, is more stereo within your percussion sounds. So, like, you have your kick, you have your snare, and you have your offbeat hi-hat. They're all centered. That's fine. You know, with club track like this, definitely want them centered, sound good, provide the rhythm, groove in the center, power, all that good stuff. But the other elements, I think, could have some more width and just be more impactful in the stereo image, I think. Specifically the sides of the stereo image, I think they could have more impact. Yeah, that's really it. Really some very minor adjustments that could help this track out. So, great work as always there, Phantom Freak. Mini Mailer, you are up next here. Whoa, slow your roll. We're not even on the main screen yet. MOIST. That is right. The song was moist. The song was moist. Right. Well, I mean, Jay Heinrich is not in here at the moment. And I think he did give a cocaine reference about that particular song last time. But yeah. I mean, I thought about it. I feel like people who come to this stream think of your music as cocaine music. Because Jay Heinrich always comments about cocaine on your music. So they associate it with cocaine. I mean, I guess that could be a good thing, right? I guess that's not always a bad thing. Or is it? I don't know. You decide. All right, Mini Mailer. Let's do it.
Call me up when you're sober, when you've showered and changed. You give it up like it's over, but never give it away. And I don't wanna fall for you this time. I can't find the truth in all the lies. but never gave it away. And I'm gonna fall for you this time. I can't find the truth in all the lies. If I could, I would believe me. If I could, I would need you. I don't wanna fall for you this time. I don't wanna fall for you this time.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So any feedback for it? MIDI crew, go ahead and put that in the chat. What you liked, what you think could be improved about this remix. Definitely love the vibe you had going. Always loving the pop. Like oldies, live, jazzy, fusion vibe that you got going on in all your songs there, MIDI crew. Always works well. What I think could be improved, again, it's really always the mix and part of the arrangement. I think the arrangement was okay in this track, though. Didn't seem to lose too much attention at any one point. I would say there needs to be a better mid-range in the track. So your bass line needs to be louder in the mix. The drums seem fine, foundation as a good foundation for your song, but the bass line needs to be there as well. You can hear the bass line, but it's not providing the weight in the mid-range that the track needs. The track just feels a little bit thin because of that missing foundation. Another thing is just that it gets a little bit too crazy at times. You have a lot of elements going at one time at certain points in the mix and all playing different rhythms, and it's just a bit muddy. So, if we listen here, compression. I think compression is really needed for this track. I think that's really what it is. The elements in the track don't seem stable enough volume-wise. If you have too much varying volumes and the different instruments in your track, especially with rhythmic elements, then it'll be hard for you to place certain elements in the mix and hard for you to just digest the track a bit easier. The track is a tiny bit confusing. One, because of the amount of elements. Two, because of a lack of some of the compression on some of these elements. Compression stabilizes the elements in the mix and allows you to understand where it is more in space. So I think that's really what is needed. So again, compression of the elements. Especially this saxophone, it's just going way up in volume, down in volume. Also, it's overall too loud in the mix. If you listen to the other elements in your track and you listen to the saxophone or the trumpet or whatever that is, then it's just way too loud. So reduce it overall in volume as well. And I can't read what I wrote here. Elements need to be blah in more blah. More impactful. That's what that blah was. And again, I just think that just comes down to the compression, stabilizing it for one, and then just the EQing of some of these elements as well. Once you stabilize them, solo all your instruments together. Solo all the keys, the guitars, just those elements. Don't put in the drums or anything like that. Just listen to those as they play and make EQ adjustments that way. I think, yeah, you need to hone in on the different instruments to make sure that they're really fitting together. And, think cutting more than boosting when you're doing this EQing as well. Again, if you look at that Muddy Mix tutorial, I think that would really help. Again, I'll put it in the chat here. Watch that tutorial again, as I really think it'll help out with this track. That really was the main issue with the song. So thank you very much, Mini Mailer, for sending on in another funky jam of yours. Do appreciate it. And Michael, you are up next. EQing is really one of the toughest parts of mixing, I feel. Compression, I mean, it can all be pretty tough, but EQing is so fickle. You make certain EQ adjustments to a certain sound, and not only does that affect that specific sound, but it affects all the other sounds and how you perceive them as well. So it shifts. It always makes shifts. You're always making shifts, even when you just, in all the other sounds, even when you just affect one sound with an EQ. What is up, Braz Official? Thank you so much for joining. Do appreciate it. Right, and also, changing one thing could also ruin a mix. Yeah, it really comes down to ear training with EQing. Like, if you watch someone who's been producing music for like 20 years EQ, you watch them work on, let's say, a very basic song, like a 4-track mix. It has like drums, guitars, bass line, and like supporting elements, I guess, just background elements like guitar, or just like keys or something in the background. You watch them mix it, and they'll make EQ cuts and boosts, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. That sounds good. And it's pretty basic. You watch them compress it. They just do some basic compression, nothing crazy. They just set the ratios, set the threshold, and set the attack, set the release, and it sounds fine. It's their ear training. That's what really comes into play. If someone has trained ears, they know, okay, this shouldn't sound like this. This is not as impactful as it should be. These frequencies are causing problems in the mix. It's all that experience of listening to professional records and hearing how they sound and trying to translate that sort of sound into your own mix, and listening to how different EQ cuts and different just mixing processes in general affect a song. And yeah, really just practice with EQing. You could watch the tutorial. You could watch my mixing tutorial and work through your own mix, and you still not be able to quite get the mix that you want, because again, it comes down to ear training and having experience. So just because you have the technique to mix in a professional way does not mean that you can mix professionally. Because you need to be able to hear how certain frequencies sound, hear how different sounds interact with each other, and hear, just how it can come together in a professional way. And the only way to do that is with practice. And mixing is an art, absolutely. Drums and leads. Lead synths mix first, then start layering. That helped me. Nice, nice, nice. Thank you, Dry Water 6969. Do appreciate it. Right, like fill in the mixing gaps after the main parts are good. Definitely, that's how I work as well. When I start mixing a song, I'll go with the kick, the snare, the sub, the bass line. Those are the elements that I'll mix together first, as they are the foundation of a track, especially for electronic music. But really, for most all musics, all work that way as well. With live recordings, I've also worked that way, and it has seemed to have helped really set the foundation. Because you shift around those elements, it really changes your perception of the mix, as they are pretty much the most impactful elements in the mix. And of course, like your lead or vocals are as well. But having the lower frequency range elements be set first would be my suggestion for starting with mixing. All right, Michael, you are up. Let's do it. Hell yeah, Michael. Amazing, amazing orchestral, cinematic track. Always nail it with these tunes. So any feedback for Michael, go ahead and put that in the chat. What you liked and what you think can be improved. Dry Water 6969 and Braz Official. Thank you guys so much for the follow. I do appreciate it. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the stream. Oh, nice. We got a bunch more tracks for feedback as well. We were almost at the end of the queue there. We got 5 more coming up. So, overall with your tracks, always nail it. You always nail it. The arrangements, the different elements, the progressions, all those work really well. Sounds epic, but I need surround sound for this. I do not have any feedback if you guys have a surround sound song. One, because I don't have a surround sound system, so it would not physically be possible for me to listen to it in surround sound. Secondly, I have no experience with surround sound mixing or anything like that. You can imagine it in a queue for a roller coaster at Disneyland or something. Yes, I could definitely see that as well. Getting set for an epic adventure. I think some suspensions would sound amazing in the repeats instead of going back to the tonic in the melody on the tonic chord. Just my opinion, because I love dissonance. Yeah, I feel like you could definitely go either way with that. I mean, as it is right now, it sounds good. Dissonance definitely adds, it does add that suspense to the track. That dissonance does, it makes you want to go back to the tonic more. And it just, a little bit of dissonance, it definitely creates interest. I'd recommend trying it out and see how it sounds, but definitely it could not sound good for this song, and as it is, could work really well. Good suggestion there, Braz Official. What else? So I think one thing, I think it's really just the mixing I think can be improved. In your tracks, like I said, the arrangements, the progressions and all that always sound great. The instrument selection as well, just more impactful mixing. Let the elements shine through more, make them layer in that saturation, layer in that, you know, slight distortion, give them, you know, more unique, a little more unique space. Do some reverbs, different types of reverbs, do different types of delays. Get creative, you know, more with the mixing and have them shine through more. You know, do some EQ boosting on sounds that you want to have more impactful in the mix. Give them more body. I think that's really what I think I hear with your songs as far as from a mixing perspective. Layers would work really well. Absolutely, Connor. That's a good suggestion there to help thicken everything up. Layering will help give you a more complex sound and also make it bigger in the mix. Right. Yeah, it already sounds great and it could be amazing. Absolutely. So just a little bit more polishing up of the sounds I think would work. You know, layer in like 3 different pianos together. All have different timbres. You know, layer in a piano that has a good high end, has a nice crisp sound. Layer in a piano that sounds really warm and rich. That has more, you know, body in the mid range and the low mid range. Combine those together. I think that's really where this track could really take another level of complexity and emotion. Is, yeah, again, just the layering. You could definitely layer in synths to your string elements. That would be a great way to add in some synthesizers, because those work so nicely together, synths and strings. Yeah, let me go back to a section here. Yeah, really just overall layering. That's really what I mean. Yeah, Connor's Connor's watching you. Nailed it. Definitely nailed it. You know, with this type of track, I wouldn't get too synthy though. I would think more subtle synth layers, as it is such an orchestral track, and it seems to be going down that specific theme. There's nothing wrong with, you know, having, you know, synths in an orchestral track, but I just think as the direction you're going in doesn't necessarily need prominent synth elements, I would say. So hopefully that feedback helps there, Michael. I think about the mix in a little bit different of a way there. I think that's really where you could benefit, where the track could benefit. All right, Marcel, we are up next here.
Die Polizei kommt um die Ecke und wir rennen die Wette, ganz benebelt von den Säften. Ich versuch mich zu verstecken. Polizei kommt, ich bin weg. Hör zu, ich bin korrekt. Ich mache ja kein Deck, doch komm, in Bullen bin ich weg. Komm hier nicht mit 31er, du weißt, ich bin ein Heiliger und peinige auch deine Bitch mit meinen geilen Rhymen, Bitch. Guck wie die Butterfly fast mit einem Wannabe, werde die Nasen ziehen, bin nur ein Faden. Sie wenn ich mein Gage krieg, siehst du mich dann ziehen, denn Digga, Arsch fliegt Bein für Sachen ziehen. Bleibe haben, grüne Lampe, aber kein Genie. Gringo will, Spiegelfarbe, Chrom, Lamborghini. Weiber haben Wunderlampe, aber kein Genie. Gringo will, Spiegelfarbe, Chrom, Lamborghini. Die Polizei kommt um die Ecke und wir rennen die Wette, ganz benebelt von den Säften. Ich versuch mich zu verstecken. Polizei kommt, ich bin weg. Hör zu, ich bin korrekt. Ich mache ja kein Deck, doch komm, in Bullen bin ich weg. Zu einer Hautfresse passt keine Rolex, sondern eine Handschelle. Nach dem Prinzip war ich schon in der Knassele und handele mit Abfällen, mit Gefangenen und startete ein Klasskartell. Messer in den Bauchmarken mit Allhandel. Die Polizei kommt um die Ecke und wir rennen um die Wette, ganz benebelt von den Säften. Ich versuch mich zu verstecken. Polizei kommt, ich bin weg. Hör zu, ich bin korrekt. Ich mache ja kein Weg, doch kommen Bullen, bin ich weg. Die Polizei kommt um die Ecke und wir rennen um die Wette, ganz benebelt von den Säften. Ich versuch mich zu verstecken. Polizei kommt, ich bin weg. Hör zu, ich bin korrekt. Ich mache ja kein Weg, doch kommen Bullen, bin ich weg. Komm hier nicht mit einem 30.
Nice, nice, nice. Loving it, man. So any feedback for KKY second account, or KKY here, go ahead and put that in the chat. So definitely think very impactful as far as the elements that you chose to have in there. Not a ton of elements. With hip-hop tracks, you usually don't have a ton of elements anyways, but they definitely provided power and weight for the entire song. I will say, though, that I think the guitars could be improved mix-wise. They seem just a little, I guess, thin in the mix, I want to say. They just kind of seemed a little bit too backgroundy. You definitely want the vocals, the rap to be way up front in these types of songs, specifically in hip-hop songs, as they do take up a larger percentage of the song than other tracks that have vocals, I would say. But yeah, I just think they could be a little bit more, have a little more body, a little more volume to them. As, yeah, they just sound a little bit too thin, and I wanted to be able to pick out the different notes a bit better. I think that's really what it was. I couldn't hear all the different notes. I heard it was like plucking around a little bit, but I wasn't hearing everything. And I think, yeah, just need to see cleaner, more body, I think would be best for that. And how you could do that is definitely, of course, saturation. You could layer it as well. Just copy the guitar over, pitch it down 12 semitones, take another copy, add some distortion on it, add some saturation on it, group all those together, compress them, add some another layer of small saturation on there with like 5 to 10%, 5 to 10% of distortion. Get really creative with the layering, and you can make it more impactful in the mix without having to actually add, another recording of that guitar or another sample or whatever. I think that would be the best thing that you could do to thicken it up. That could work. That could definitely work. Halftime the guitar for the breakdown, maybe. Definitely something worth experimenting with there. Let's see. Oh yeah, nice. You already halftime did it and sounded awful. Oh, there you go. Sometimes when you have certain suggestions, you just don't know if they sound good or not until you try them. That's always what I've noticed. Is I'll think of an idea, I'm like, oh, I guess that could work. Maybe, maybe not. And then I try it and like, oh, that sounds great. And sometimes I'll try it and I'm like, oh, this will sound awesome in the song. And I'll try it and I'm like, oh, that kind of sounds like crap. So you never quite know, I would say, until you try it. Experimentation is key. If you have an idea, and that's why it's so important to save so many different versions of a project. Of course, if you have a deadline for a specific song, you definitely want to meet that deadline, and trying a bunch of different new ideas in a song is just not feasible as you don't have time. But again, going back to ear training, the only way you can train your ears to know what sounds good, to know, just what certain sounds sound like, what certain ideas put together sound like, is by experimenting. So anytime you have an idea and you have time to do it, to save another version of the project that you're working on and go down that rabbit hole. Again, if you have time, see if it works. You don't always have to finish the idea. If you go down that rabbit hole a little bit and it doesn't work, so that rabbit hole being that new idea that you have, work with it. And if it's not working out after a little bit, just cut it. Don't worry about it. Forget about it. It's good that you tried. Again, building the ear training, building the experience is really key again, you can know all the different technicalities of how to use a compressor and all the techniques of using a compressor to get some cool sound. But unless you actually put them into practice over different projects, over different styles, just using techniques and just experimenting with coming up with your own techniques, just all around experimentation is needed. Let's see, what else?
Du verstecken, Polizei kommt, ich bin weg. Hör zu, ich bin korrekt. Ich mache ja kein Weg, doch kommen Bullen, bin ich weg. So eine Hautfresse.
So with the vocal processing, I definitely think you can add in some ad-libs, certain words, add in a stereo version of that, add some distortion on it, EQ it differently to give it a creative effect, just to give more depth to the vocals and to more interest to the vocals, I think, is what would really help the song. As again, they are a main feature of the song, so you want to have them be interesting and not just have them playing the rap just straight on down the center the entire time. I think that's what would really help. Effects of the vocals as well, that could really help, especially in the stereo field. I notice it's all in mono. Definitely give some more stereo interest to the vocals in some shape or form. So hopefully that feedback helped. Just a few tips to help bring the mix together a bit more, to give more interest. You definitely nailed the track. Definitely already a quality song there, KKY. So thank you for sending on in the tune for the first time here. I do appreciate it. And I hope to see you back in future live streams. And again, I'm sorry we did not have a free giveaway in this live stream, but we will be having free giveaways of plugins, of synthesizers and effects in future live streams. Again, I do have them on my hard drive, the free plugins to give away, but I was not able to choose the specific one and promote it and let everyone know what plugin that I was giving out. I still haven't decided yet. So again, next Friday, we will be doing that. Oh, nice. Not the first time. When's the last time you came in? I guess I just got thrown off by seeing the KKY second account. I guess that's what threw me off here. All right. Muzgafaza, are you in the stream right now? Mugs, are you in the stream? We can go over your track right now. Nice. It's always good to join the streams when you're hella drunk. That's the perfect time to hop into streams, is when you're drunk, right? Yeah, are we in the stream here? Mugs. Muzga. Not mugs. Muzga. Let me know. That is incredibly weird. Connor's watching you. That is too weird, I would say. Too weird. So I guess we're not on the stream here, so we'll move on. Braz, we are up. Give me some of that Braz. Braz, we're in the stream here still, right? Yes, we are. Let's do it. Nice work there, Braz. Love the future bass song. Love the future bass genre. So thank you for sending on in the song. Already got some good feedback in here. Any other feedback that you guys have for the song, go ahead and put that in the chat. So I'll hop right into the feedback here about what I think could be improved. A bunch of things, small things here, some big things. Intro, too long. Hop right into the part with the vocals first. Play one progression, like 4 bars or so, and then hop right into the vocal part of the intro / build. This is too long in the beginning here. Kind of lost me a bit there. Second thing, I think a new snare could be used. I didn't quite. It didn't quite sound like, I guess, a slap drum hit. It kind of sounded like a. You wanna. That could be like the limiting that you have on the snare and the mastering you've done. I just think a cleaner snare overall. Also something a little bit lower in volume. You know, it's providing the impact that you want it to. I think maybe you overcompensated a little bit because also the synths that you had in the track were too loud. They were too loud compared to the other elements, and just overall, yeah, we're running too hot in the mix. If you listen to a professional, just like your favorite song for future bass, if you listen to the individual elements, you'll notice that they're not particularly overwhelming each element. Each element in the mix is not larger than life. It occupies its own specific frequency range and is playing at a, I guess, a modest level, a modest volume level. You know, when you're right, you're working on a drop, right? You want your drop to sound louder than life. So you think that everything needs to be pushed up in volume. That is definitely not the case. You can have an incredibly impactful mix, even more impactful mix, without having all your elements be tried to maxed out in volume. And I think you tried to push the volumes of the individual sounds a bit too far here. What else? Let's see. I should definitely recommend checking out this gain staging tutorial that I have here to help even out the volumes a bit more. I think that would really help. Again, you know, listening to the individual elements, if you can somehow get a hold of stems of, you know, a professional mix and listen to each individual stem, listen to the drums, listen to the synthesizers, listen to, you know, everything in solo, you'll listen that, you know, each sound by itself isn't exactly overwhelmingly larger than life. It's the combination of specific elements that are playing in specific frequency ranges at appropriate volumes that create this larger than life mix. What else? Definitely vocals. I definitely recommend changing the vocals as well. A bunch of you guys mentioned this also. I definitely think you can find different vocal samples. You can always head on over to SoundShockAudio.com for that. I'll throw on over the link for this as well. Again, SoundShockAudio.com has the largest collection of free sample packs on the web with over 160,000 samples, over 950 plus free sample packs. So definitely want to check it out. And here are the vocal samples that you could check out that are free on the site. Yes, definitely a great way to start mixing your track with gain staging. That's how I start my track, as the further mixing decisions, the EQing, the compression, the reverb delay, all those other things are all based off of the initial gain staging. You know, if the gain staging isn't correct or I haven't gain staged the track yet, you know, I could be EQing a specific sound that I normally wouldn't EQ if it was gain staged. Gain stage being the different volume levels of the individual elements and group of elements in your track. Yeah, so hopefully that other thing, you know, gain staging will definitely help a lot of this. If we listen to the end here, you have the vocals playing, you could barely hear them. Again, the gain staging I think will help this a lot, but EQing will also need to be done. And again, I'm going to put that Muddy Mix tutorial as well for you to check out, as again, that will come in handy. Instead of me just blurbing up here about it, you can check out my tutorial where it's clear, concise, and easy for you to understand. I'll probably miss something if I explain this whole tutorial right now. So definitely check out those two tutorials, and you are on your way to a definitely improved mix and overall track there, Braz. So thanks again for sending on in your song. Do appreciate it. And I hope to see you back in future live streams with another song of yours, another future-based song of yours, as well as a chance to win the free plugins that we will be giving away in future live streams. Nathan, are we in the track right now? I haven't seen you in here in a while. You are up next. If you are in the stream, let me know. Let me know. Sweet, sweet, sweet. That's right, you're Pac-Man. R97. Let's do it. Nice, Pac-Man. Nathan, thank you so much for sending on in the tune. It's been a while since you've had a track sent in, so thanks for stopping on by this Saturday. So any feedback for Nathan, go ahead and put it in the chat, what you liked, what you think could be improved about the song. Any feedback would help. Or any questions for Nathan, or any questions at all on anything music production related, go ahead and put that in the chat as well. Again, this live stream is to help you guys out with your musical productions, and the best way to do that is just to ask questions and give feedback, commentary, and all that. That way we can get a music production discussion started around all things music production related. Makes sense, doesn't it? So, overall, love the vibe of the track. Really unique vibe, that ambient prog metal. I'm not really familiar with the ambient prog metal genre. I've definitely worked with some metal tracks before, some pop punk tracks, some metal tracks, that sort of thing. So I am a little bit familiar with the mixing style. Definitely a unique song. I really loved it. Loved all the ambient side of it. Really added to it, along with those drums. I do think some mixing definitely needs to be done to this track. You say I think some of the vocals are off beat, but I'm a noob with vocals. Gotcha. I didn't pick that up in the mix. I was kind of focusing on other things in the mix, so they might be off beat. I don't know if anyone else caught that. Okay, so I'll just go through the feedback. So, one, there was a ride that was out of time. Right here, the ride was out of time. It kind of threw off the rhythm a little bit. I'd recommend going back and fixing that. I don't know if that was intentional or not. I'll definitely try it. If it was intentional, I'll definitely try it on time and see and compare the two and see which one you like. What else here? So that was just a minor point. I think the arrangement also could have been changed. And I think a lot of that had to do with the drums. So the drums were very busy through the mix. You had so many kick rolls going throughout the track that it was too overpowering because it was playing for such a long time. For almost, the entire track, it felt like the kick roll was going on. There needs to be more variation to the drums, to the kick roll. Maybe try reducing the kick roll at certain sections. That way you could have some of the other elements shine through a bit. I feel like the drums, I believe Connor said they needed to be more impactful. I think they were impactful enough, actually, the drums. Also, I think the timbre of that rolling kick, it could have been changed as well. It felt a little synthetic. I think something more natural sounding could have worked. Maybe it was a real kick sample. And just to my ears, it just sounds a little bit synthetic. But I'm just thinking a different timbre, regardless if it's something that's synthetic or not. I just think a different timbre could have been worked. Again, working with the arrangement of the drums as well. Taking out that kick roll at certain points would really help highlight it when it does come in as well as highlight the ambient elements in your track. I feel like the ambient elements in your track could have been brought to the forefront a little bit more. I think the drums actually dominated a little bit too much, in my opinion. Believe it or not. With metal tracks, obviously, the drums are always the foundation of the backbone of your track. In electronic tracks, drums are more impactful than most any other genre. The kick is not as loud in a metal track as it is in a dubstep or really most all electronic tracks. That's just not the case. That's just kind of the mixing style. So that's not necessarily, the drums just aren't as impactful. Again, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be impactful. It's not as impactful. And I believe also, Connors, you also mentioned something like the reverbs and the echoes. The snare drum that you had in this track, the timbre that you had from the room reverb on it did not match the more ambient side of the track that you had going. It felt a little bit out of place in just timbre and space-wise, that track. Or sorry, that snare. I think something a little bit deeper in the mix, a little bit longer of a decay, not so much of a roomy reverb would work well. What else? Okay, nice. You recorded the drums live. Gotcha. The guitar sounded good. I like the guitar. Worked really well. What I think could also help with this track is a tiny bit of side chaining. Now, I know that's an electronic technique, electronic music technique, but I think very subtle side chaining to maybe the snare, maybe specific like quarter note kicks. Okay, there was a ton of side chaining. I think maybe even more than. What did you side chain it to? Because the reason I'm saying is I didn't think the drums and the other elements didn't seem to gel together as well. That's why I say that. I don't think they gel together as well as they could have. Maybe just reduce the volume of the drums. Okay, kick, snare to bass. Gotcha. Wait, so you just sidechained the bass to the kick and snare. Is that what you're saying, right? That's the only element you sidechained? Because I think you could sidechain everything. All the ambient sounds, all of that. So not just the bass. If you just did the, just sidechained the bass, just ducked out the bass when the kick and snare played, I think you could do everything to a little bit, just a little bit. You know, the ambient section could work really well. Kick to the bass and snare to the bass. The guitars and all had their own sidechains to be less muddy. Okay. Gotcha. I think it might just be the volume of the drums then. Like I said, I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect between the drums and the rest of the song. Maybe not so much the guitars, maybe the ambient part. It felt too separated. I would maybe try messing around with the side chains a bit more, messing around with the volume levels of the drums to see if you can get them to sound just more as one. It's really hard to explain. Just try to mess. I think that just try messing with that. That's really it. I just speak really high like this. Yeah, that's really it. Just a few minor things. Really with the track overall, definitely excellent job. The vocal mixing style, yeah, I thought it worked well. You know, it had that sort of, it worked well with the metal guitars that you had. It's like that more like death-like vocal sort of thing. Yeah, it worked well. Timbre and theme-wise, it worked. So hopefully that feedback helped there. All right, dry water. We are up next. Hell yeah, Dry Water. Loving it. Loving the trap banger. Thank you so much for sending on in. And thank you so much for the $1 tip there, Nathan. Do appreciate it. High five. Whoosh. All right. So as far as what I think could be improved about the song, I'll hop right into that feedback. And I hope you guys do too in the chat. One part was a sub bass. Sub bass was too loud in the mix. Yes, of course, the sub bass or the 808s is incredibly important, and you want it to be impactful for the trap track. Without an 808, without a banging 808, a trap track is nothing. I know it was too loud in the mix and a little too muddy. Reducing some frequencies with notch EQing in the 150 to 500 hertz range is definitely necessary, as I think this will open up the mix a bit and still retain the power of the 808, and I think that really is what is definitely heard with it, as well as the pattern of the 808. The 808s seem to go on, it seemed to hold sustained notes for just ever, it felt like in the track. I felt like the one place where it might have been okay is here, the end. Right there, right, with a sustained note where you had that more like get hyped up, section of it. I think that worked fine. But other sections, I think just break it up, play less of it. Don't have it sustained for so long. Make different gaps in between it, because when you have the sub bass playing for so long, it loses its impact. If you have a sound playing for the entire time for too often, the listener will get used to it. If they get used to it, it will sound less impactful. So I really think, the only spot where it's okay for the long sustained note is here. That section. And once it goes into this other section. Boom, you mix it up a little bit. Don't have it sustained so much. A little bit can go a long way there. It doesn't necessarily have to completely chop it up and completely strip it down. Just give it a little more breathing room for the audience here. Oh, what's up there, Flamingo Leg? Good to see you in here, Astro. Thank you for joining. What else? That was one of the main things. Also, stereo imaging of the main elements you have here. I thought they could have been wider in the stereo image. That reverb, some of the reverb you had on it. You could add some delay. Again, it was right down the center, and I think it can cover wider parts of the stereo field. I know you had other elements in the mix that covered the sides of the stereo field, but that main sound, I think, could have had another layer in there, I would say. And you definitely want to have, a trap track. It's a club track. You need it to play well in mono, but also having that stereo information is key. I would recommend copying the main lead layer that you have, washing it in reverb, and just mixing that in addition to the main lead layer that you already have. That way you have a solid layer that's impactful, that works well in the mix, and you're just adding in that stereo with an interest. I think that is how you should go about this, instead of messing with the original layer that you already have. Just add on to it with a specific affected layer. Really just those two things I think would really help improve this track already. The arrangement is solid. All the elements you have in work really well together, and just that small little mixing tweak with the sub bass will work really well. So thank you again. I appreciate you sending on in the song there. And again, I do run these live streams every Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This week, I was not able to do it on Friday. That's why we're doing it on Saturday. But the normal scheduled time, unless otherwise posted by me in the Facebook group, is Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. GMT time. So I hope to see you back in there. Thank you so much for the follow there, Flamingo Leg and Bang Die Alive. Good to see you guys in here. Robert Villacorta, are we in the stream right now? We can go over your song. If you are, let me know, and we will hit that play button. I believe Harakari, yes, you are in the stream. I am 90% sure. 90%. And 90. I'm at the 90 mark. And... Yes, you are in the stream. Okay, sweet. Let's go over it. Nice hardcore music. Thank you so much for sending on in the tune. Sweet little house song there. So any feedback for Harakari, go ahead and put that in the chat. What you like to be thinking be improved about the song. I'll hop right into the feedback here. So the sub bass. The sub bass was definitely way too loud in the mix. Also, it needed to be compressed. So, I'm always an advocate of having some dynamic range in your track. Obviously with electronic tracks, dynamic range is lost a lot of times. Which is, part of the style, over limiting a song, limiting, compressing, saturation, distortion, that reduces the dynamic range, the dynamic range being the difference between the loudest part in your mix and the quietest part in your mix. And again, that's fine because that is the style, but I do advocate at least having a little bit of dynamic range. But with sub basses, I like to flatten out the dynamic range of sub basses. Why? They are the foundation of your song. They are really more of a sound that you feel. A sound that you feel not so much here. You can definitely hear a sub bass, but since it is a low sine wave, the harmonics that it has in the mid-range, the mid-range up, there's really none. So that definition is not there. Again, it's more of a sound that you feel. And I like to compress a sub bass that has a solid foundation. If you have a foundation that is a main element in your track, that is, if you have a house, right, and it has a wobbly foundation, right, your track will have a hard time, all the other elements will have a hard time sitting on top of that, right? Your foundation of your house is wobbly, everything in the house will come crashing down on it. So having a sub bass that is, even it could be over compressed, which is fine. Compressing it a lot to make sure all the different notes are playing consistent volume levels is important for that foundation. So that's really the only advocate I have for that. I advocate for having no dynamic range in specific elements. Yes, I definitely think it needs to be more interesting as well. Flamingo Leg definitely was getting there. Definitely more effects. The foundation is there for this as far as, the vibe that you're going for. More effects, more drum fills, more ear candy sounds, more Foley percussion, more different types of vocals, more reverb effects on like the chords that you have. Add more interest. It's too repetitive. Again, both these drops are like the same. They feel the same. Add in a new element. Add in a different kick pattern. There's just so many different things that you could do to change the repetitiveness of this to make it more interesting and more professional song. So hopefully that feedback helped there, Harakari. Do appreciate you sending on in the song. And let's see if we can move on here as quickly as possible as we are running out of time for the stream, unfortunately. Midwest Funky, you're up. Nice, loving it, Midwest Funky. Thank you so much for sending on in this song and for the follow as well. So any feedback for Midwest Funky, go ahead and put that in the chat. What you liked, what you think we improved about the song. Definitely an idea worth continuing out here. Definitely recommend, I'm not sure if you have, a rapper lined up for this. definitely adding in different types of vocals besides the oohs and ahs would definitely help out this song. As far as the musical idea you had going, definitely works. I love I'm not even sure what it is, like the little plucky sounds you had, those worked really well. I'd recommend bringing up the 808 bass a bit, as it felt a little bit too deep in the mix, and I think it could be more impactful. What else? Yeah, the drums were on point. I like to hear the song more fleshed out, the idea of more fleshed out a bit. It's definitely something worth continuing. Definitely look for a vocalist on this, as I definitely think that will take it to the next level. And yeah, sorry if there wasn't too crazy a feedback there for you there, Midwest. But definitely something worth continuing here. Astro, you are up next here. Awesome, Astrowave. Loving the remix of Stereo Love. Yeah, I remember this song coming out in 2012 or something like that, a while ago. With that, I think it was an accordion type lead. So any feedback for Astrowave, go and put that in the chat. What you liked, what you think could be improved about this song. So two main things that I think could be improved that will take this song definitely to the next level. Well, first, gain staging. The gain staging needs to be fixed in this track. That's really where I think you need to focus on first. I'll go ahead and put the tutorial for gain staging in here. I just put the link. Check that out there, Astrowave. As before you do any mixing, before you do any EQing, before you do any compression, reverb, any of that stuff, you need to do gain staging. As the gain staging, meaning the individual level of elements in your track, that is the gain staging, needs to be fixed, as certain elements are too loud and too quiet in the mix and causing an imbalance in the song. So already doing this gain staging will help the impact and overall emotional theme that you're trying to give across with your song, so check that out. And also I think that the arrangement could have been worked on as well. So I'm going to put another tutorial here. These are the two main things that I noticed that really could help improve the song. So look at gain staging and then how to create a song arrangement. Follow this tutorial and implement the technique. That way you have the appropriate elements in the specific parts of the arrangement that help create a compelling and professional song. Again, this is what I think that could really help out with the song, the gain staging, and the song arrangement. Those are the two main points that I think you should focus on for this song and your future songs as well. There, Astro, as again, I mean, the arrangements of your song. I feel like that's always an ongoing process for improving, fine tuning arrangements, no matter how experienced you are. And the gain staging, that is a real quick fix. Again, just check out that tutorial. It'll give you suggestions for where you can put specific elements in the mix, and you can adjust according to how you think it should sound. It just gives you a guideline for where the elements should go so they can be as impactful as possible and not be muddy and not be poking out or be too quiet in the mix. So that's going to do it for this week's live stream, everyone. I want to thank you all for coming on in. It's great to see you on in here. A lot of new faces as well as a bunch of returning faces. So thank you so much. Angel of Light, Bang Die Alive, Cache Bear, Commander Root, Connor's Watching You, Diddy01, Drywater 6969, Electric Longboard, Flamingo Leg, Kaliko Music, KKY Music, Lurks, Muzfaza, Rockanel, S1 Faka, VNK, Vapor Cruise, Veshuda, Virgo Pros, and Exclamator. Thank you guys so much for joining. Again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Do appreciate it. And again, if you sent in a track, I will be able to give you feedback through email. And I do apologize that I was not able to get to it today. And again, I run the live stream every Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, I ran it on Saturday as I had an unfortunate event that I had to take care of, to attend, namely taking my dog to the vet on Friday, so I was not able to do it. But again, the scheduled time is Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. GMT time, unless otherwise posted in the Facebook group. And again, if you need to get in contact with me, you can always send me an email at daniel@SoundShockAudio.com or any of the SoundShock social media. Any questions about SoundShock, any questions about the live stream, any questions about anything music production related, I'm always happy to talk to you guys. So feel free to send me a message anywhere on the SoundShock social media or at daniel@SoundShockAudio.com. And again, we will be running the free giveaway of, I'm not sure which plugin yet, but a plugin next week. So be ready for that. I'll send out an email as well if you're not part of the email list. I definitely recommend you guys do so. Just head on over to SoundShockAudio.com and you can sign up there just by checking out the free downloads. You can easily create an account on the upper right-hand corner of the website. You can create an account and you'll get put on the email list that way. And also, check out SoundShockAudio.com if you guys aren't very familiar with it. It has the largest collection of free music production resources on the web right now with DAW templates, music production apps, plugins, presets, contact instruments, and samples and loops. No other website on the web has this collection of tools. At first glance, you look at the website and, okay, it has a few free downloads. But trust me, there are a ton of free downloads all organized nicely for you to check out, download, and create professional productions with. So don't miss out on all these awesome free music production tools. Again, my name is Daniel with SoundShock Audio, and I want to wish you guys a happy Saturday and a great rest of your weekend. And I'll talk to you all next time.